Good morning and happy Easter. Today's Sunday school lesson, how mighty and strong are you likened to? I pray you are small and insignificant to the world. It is only human nature to want to compare ourselves to majestic, tall, strong, and important objects. Maybe you have thought, or you know somebody who thought, and compared themselves to, compared themselves to a tall oak tree, just majestically standing firm in their belief, unmoving, believe what they believe, stand for what they stand for. Maybe you or others have symbolically compared themselves to a lion, king of the jungle, not intimidated by anyone. Or maybe you or someone you know compared themselves to the majestic beauty of a tiger. Or maybe you know someone who thought themselves wise and strong like that of an elephant. However, as Christians, we should not fall into temptations of the flesh with the would've, could've, and should'ves, focusing on ourselves as a singular unit, but rather we should fall into His grace belonging to a family. A family beyond a birth relation, but our spiritual family. A family working together as a unit for the glory of God. Each and every one of you and other brothers and sisters, God's children, are special, majestically strong, with God-given important roles. Some of us may think our contributions in glorifying God is small and insignificant, but you are wrong. Each of us should have a desire to the level of a honeybee. Now I'll explain, but first I would like to introduce you to Lee Catherine Bonner. I had the great pleasure to meet and speak with her at a conference she spoke to at last year. Now while you listen to her presentation, think about God and His divine plan.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to be here today. There is something so special about a good storyteller. A good storyteller knows how to captivate you. They know how to create moments that matter. Sadly, storytellers these days are few and far between. Luckily, I come from a family of some of the best storytellers. A family full of people that know how to carefully craft their words to evoke a sense of emotion and intrigue, excitement. Growing up, I loved listening to their stories, and I loved watching other people listen to their stories as well. It's where I learned the power of being able to tell a good story. The big guy in the overalls, that's my Uncle G. He's not only one of the best storytellers that I've ever met, but he's also one of the best beekeepers in the country. If you just look at that man, you know that he has some stories up his sleeve or folded tightly in the front bib of his overalls. And I promise you, they never disappoint. Over the past 4 years, there's been another storyteller that I've come to know and anxiously await stories from each and every day. And that storyteller is the honeybee. Mother Nature is one of our world's best and oldest storytellers. She cannot be rushed. She paints a picture with her whole heart, and she pays attention to even the smallest of details. The secret to hearing Mother Nature's story is to sit and listen to all that she is whispering around us. One of Mother Nature's best and oldest storytellers is the honeybee. You see, honeybees are an indicator species. So what we can do is look at the health of honeybees and be able to understand the overall health of the environment at a faster rate. It's very similar to the canary in the coal mine scenario. However, honeybees around the world are dying at alarming rates due to a number of issues, but we categorize them as the 4 Ps: parasites, pesticides, poor management, and poor nutrition. As an indicator species with these honeybees dying around the world, they're trying to tell us a story. And it's time that we sit and listen to the honeybees. There's a study of science called biomimicry. Biomimicry is where we take and we look at naturally occurring biological processes for new ideas. In other words, it's taking inspiration from nature and our surrounding environment to solve real-world problems. So today, I want to talk with you guys about a story that the honeybees have been telling me. However, to best tell their story, I need to give you a little bit about my story. I started NC State University, and I took an Introduction to Bees and Beekeeping course, and I fell in love with the honeybees. I loved this idea of urban agriculture and healthy urban beekeeping because studies show that honeybees thrive in urban environments. They're in stable living conditions. They have diverse food sources. They have less pesticide interactions. That passion for bees and urban agriculture took me to my junior year at NC State when I founded a business, or beesness, as we like to call it, called Bee Downtown. At Bee Downtown, we install and maintain beehives on corporate campuses to help rebuild healthy honeybee populations, while simultaneously providing one-of-a-kind employee engagement and sustainability programming year-round for the corporations. Many of you might be sitting here in the audience thinking, there is no way a startup that puts tens of thousands of flying, stinging darts on a corporate campus will ever work. But it is working. In 2015, when I graduated, we had 3 beehives with 2 companies. Fast forward to today, and we have over 200 hives across the Southeast with more than 50 corporations, many of them being some of the largest businesses in the world, including Delta, AT&T, the New York Stock Exchange, IBM, SAS, and more. And while it may seem odd to you that all these corporations want to have beehives on their campuses, it comes as no surprise to me. Because over the years, we've seen that so many of these leaders at these corporations that are effective leaders love honeybees. It's no surprise that Dan Cathy, the CEO of Chick-fil-A, is an avid beekeeper and environmentalist. Or that Damon John of Shark Tank is also a beekeeper. Running a successful business is very much like running a successful beehive. What to the naked and untrained eye looks like tens of thousands of moving parts and pure chaos, when you know what to look for, you see the patterns, you see the efficiency, you see the opportunity, and you see the beauty. Because there is indeed a beautiful order to be found in the chaos. So today I'm standing before you as your modern day Lorax. However, instead of speaking for the trees, I'm speaking for the bees. This story of leadership that we've been learning over these past 4 years has inspired us to create a curriculum based off of this sense of biomimicry. So we've been working with retired Colonel Joseph LaBeouf to build this leadership curriculum. He's an expert in leadership development and leadership training and is a professor emeritus of Duke University. So today it's an honor to be able to share with you for the very first time on a TED stage this leadership curriculum. While we have multiple different analogies that we've been building over the last 8 months, today I want to share 3 of them with you. The first, it's not bee having, it's beekeeping. There are good beekeepers and there are really bad bee havers. A bee haver is somebody that enjoys bees. They like learning about bees. They got bees. They don't really know a lot about them. And if something happens to their bees, they're sad about it. A good beekeeper understands that beekeeping is an agricultural process. They understand that it takes years of cultivation, of maintenance and care and study to learn how to keep one of nature's most precious pollinators alive. 9 out of 10 times, if you talk to a bee haver, they've lost their bees in a year. And there is a sense of sadness, but there's a disconnect. Something happened beyond my control. I couldn't help it. Bees are dying. It happens. I'll get bees next year. If you talk to a beekeeper that lost their bees, there is a deep sense of sadness. There is this sense of responsibility that I let something in my care die. If we look at effective leaders, they too understand this loss. There is no disconnect in the loss if something happens at their corporation and their company. They feel it so deeply like the beekeeper does. Because they too, like the beekeeper, have poured their heart and soul into their employees, into their teammates. A good beekeeper understands that there are times when you have to step in and help shepherd the hive along. You have to be a steward to help them. Things might be going on that they can't fix on their own. But the majority of the time, a good beekeeper knows to step back. They know when to let the bees do what they do best, because a good beekeeper is an enabler of the natural capacity of bees to do their good work. A good leader, an effective leader, is the same. They know when to step in. They know when their business needs help, when their employees and teams need someone to shepherd them along. A good beekeeper understands that if you're in a hive too much and you're manipulating and you're experimenting and you're moving bee frames around, the bees can become agitated. And they can decide to leave or abscond in search of a place that will allow them to thrive. We see this happening at corporations all the time, where an ineffective leader is micromanaging, is always stepping in, isn't trusting their employees to do their good work. And employees too, they leave in search of another place that will allow them to grow and thrive and succeed, just like the honeybee. This brings us to our second point of the day: citizenship behavior. And what kind of bee company, business, would we be if I didn't have a couple puns up here for you guys today? Inside a beehive is amazing, okay? Depending on the age of the bees, they have different designated job roles. The worker bees, the girl bees, and yes, the girl bees do all of the work. Please note that. The boy bees, nothing. So, the girl bees, worker bees, doing all of the work in the beehive. They might be a nurse bee taking care of the baby bees, or they might be a guard bee guarding the hive, or a forager bee, their last job as they leave the hive. But they're all working together, each doing their own small part to contribute to the good of their hive. It's amazing to see in a beehive all of these moving parts and all of this trust and communication. As good leaders, we understand that there are times we come to work and we have full trust and communication that when I come to work every day, I'm going to do my best job. And the person that sits beside me, the person down the hall, the person in the corner office is coming to work to do their best job each and every day. And that's when you see efficiency in the workplace. That's when you see trust. The picture behind me is my favorite thing to see in a beehive. It's called festooning. When bees festoon, they literally hold hands and build bridges across their organization. Because the bees, what they're doing is they're passing beeswax from the underbellies of their abdomens to build the hexagonal beeswax that you see in a beehive. Citizenship behavior may look different in your own life than literally holding hands and building bridges, but I hope this is something that you can look back to and say, yes, I remember this moment. When I come to work, I am going to do my best to help my hive, to help my organization thrive. That brings us to our third leadership characteristic of the day: cultivating collective compassion. To me, this is the most important characteristics of an effective leader. Because without being able to lead with a servant's heart that cares more about the environment and the people within it and your community, you cannot be an effective leader. When you open up the lid of a beehive, there is a sense of awe and wonder. However, honeybees cannot survive if they only stay in their beehive. They have to go out into their community. From the moment we place a beehive on a corporate campus at Delta or at Invesco or at a preschool of tiny, anxiously awaiting baby beekeepers looking like astronauts, ready to meet their bees for the first time. These bees, they go out and they start to embed themselves in the community. They work symbiotically with all the pieces within it to leave a lasting positive impact. My favorite word I've found to describe community well-being is the word cultivate. Cultivate, at its core, it's an agricultural word, which is why I think that I love it most. But if you look at the root of the word cultivate, it means a deep sense of adoration. It means to deeply adore something. However, despite the honeybees being around for over 50 million years, they have never sacrificed the environment in which they're operating within for their own success. But we see this happening at corporations all the time, where they will sacrifice the environment and their people and the communities for their own selfish gain, for their own profit. Instead of taking and taking and taking from our world as leaders, we should give back. We should be leading with a servant's heart of service over self. Because if we can adore our communities, if we can adore our cities and our people, if we can adore our planet, we stop taking from it, selfishly taking from it, and we begin to nourish it. We begin to cultivate it. And we see effective leadership. We see these companies that are growing and thriving in today's world. They understand the need to cultivate collective compassion. They understand this triple bottom line approach to business of where people and planet are just as important as profit. These are the companies that are thriving today. When we look at the honeybee and we look at everything they do, they leave, everything they touch, they leave in a better place than how they found it. There is so much that we can learn from the honeybee. There is so much that we can learn from Mother Nature. One honeybee in a colony of 60,000 can have over 1,200 pollination events a day. It is amazing to me that such a small creature can have so many carefully crafted and thoughtfully executed positive micro impacts each and every day in their communities. It's very common we miss and we overlook the small impact a honeybee makes every day, but it's impossible not to step outside and be in awe of the whole of their collective impact that they create. If we think about these small micro impacts in our own lives, we have only a fraction of them a day that a honeybee has. And as leaders, it should be our goal and our mission to be like the honeybee. Because each and every one of these small micro impacts, they compound. And they end up creating this ripple effect where the impact is far greater than we could ever imagine. These moments that matter. As my time as your modern day Lorax comes to a close, I want to leave you with a moment that the honeybees have gifted me, my favorite moment, that I think back to often, that I hope my leadership journey represents. By herself, one honeybee makes a 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in her whole life. But together, a hive can generate over 100 pounds of honey in a matter of months. So if we, as leaders, as a community, can work together like a hive, we can collectively create a lasting change in the world that we are all proud to be a part of. Thank you.
In Christianity, the bee has historically been seen as a symbol of Jesus Christ's attributes. The honey reflecting his sweet and gentle character, whilst the sting pertaining to justice and the cross. In Psalm 19, 7 through 11, the law of the Lord is perfect, refreshing the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The decrees of the Lord are firm, and all of them are righteous. They are more precious than the gold, than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey from the honeycomb. By them your servant is warned. In keeping them there is great reward. Again, looking at the bee, one singular entity, but that one has many when you think of the beehive. And the beehive has many bees. So, well, when you look at 1 Corinthians 12 through 14, just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free. And we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. And again, go back to our talents that God gives each and every one of us. We take that and we move forward for the glorification of God. Because I can't spend time to look at my brother and sister and say, man, I wish I could do that. Man, I wish I could do that. God didn't give me those talents. He gave me mine. Whether it's evolving or undiscovered or I just haven't been given it yet, it's still mine to seek. A gift from Him to me for His glorification and the greater good of all of us coming together and combining. In 1 Timothy 6 through 10, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and self-destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Continuing on in 1 Timothy 6, 11 through 12. But you, man of God, flee from all this and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. Fight the good fight of the faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called when you made your good confession in the presence of many witnesses. So you see, there's not much difference. If we have to be likened to anything, let it be the honeybee. Because you see, as a church, it is kind of symbolic to a beehive. And within that church, there's many, many people buzzing around doing things that God has given us to His glory. You know, when you look at the lifespan of a honeybee, it depends on the type of bee. Drone bees live for around 8 weeks. Sterile worker bees tend to live up to 6 weeks during the summer and 5 months or more during the winter. However, the queen bee, the only fertile bee in the colony, can live for several years. Worker bees usually confine themselves to one task at a time, working without pause. I don't think any of the bees go, man, I wish I could be the queen bee. Or, I wish I could be that bee. I wish I could do that job. I got to stay here and prepare the beehive while other scouts are going out to find the honey, the nectar. So, as you ponder this Easter, kind of look at who you are, what you are in relation to God, and be content. Enjoy your brothers and sisters, love one another, and please have a wonderful Easter. And I want to end with this song. You probably heard this song before, but I hope it blesses your heart. Happy Easter and take care.
A crown of thorns placed on his head. He knew that he would soon be dead. He said, "Did you forget me, Father, did you?" They nailed him to a wooden cross. Soon all the world would feel the loss of Christ the King before us. Hallelujah. 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 He hung his head and prepared to die, then lifted his face up to the sky, said, "I am coming home now, Father, to you." A reed which held his final sip was gently lifted to his lips. He drank his last and gave his soul to glory. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The soldier who had used his sword to pierce the body of our Lord said, "Truly this was Jesus Christ our Savior." He looked with fear upon his sword, then turned to face his Christ and Lord, fell to his knees, crying, "Hallelujah, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah." Took from his head the thorny crown and wrapped him in a linen gown, then laid him down to rest inside the tomb. 3 days went by, again they came to move the stone, to bless the slain with oil and spice anointing.